Good morning, and welcome to another exciting edition of Day 4 with the man, Frank Scalish. We've got a good show today.
We are live.
We are live. I like that jacket. I'm not used to seeing you layered up there, Frank. You got the, well, I want to say new, but it's got to be old since they haven't made a Legend Boats in a while.
Actually, it's new.
It's new? It's vintage Legend Boats garb?
Yeah.
Where'd you find that?
I found it online.
That's fantastic.
Yeah, I had to get it. It's sublimated. Check the back out.
Oh, legend.
Yeah, it's sublimated, so it's not silk screened or.
You know, everybody who sees you on the water who doesn't understand that that's a boat company is going to be like, that guy really thinks highly of himself. I mean, think of like a hockey jersey with the name across the back. It just says legend where the nameplate is. That could be a double-edged sword. Let's go fish next to that guy. He's a legend.
Yeah. Well,
and then they say, well, he's not a very friendly legend.
No, he's not. Oh my gosh. Yeah.
See, legendary. We got tons of people. We got a good show today. We got to get our energy up. Both you and I beforehand, we got all sorts of, we've got avionics maps. We're bringing the deep dive app back into play today. We've got multiple screens. We got a lot of stuff going on for today's show, but we were getting ready for it. And both of us are lacking in the high energy department.
Yeah. I don't know what it is. I went to Savannah for, a week and took my wife and I went there for our 30th year anniversary.
Congratulations.
Thanks. But it was our anniversary was in February, and we chose to go now because I figured it would be, freezing cold there in February. In hindsight, next time I go there, I'm going in February because it was, 97 degrees every day and disgustingly hot. So I figured I'm not going to go in the winter. At least I could wear a hoodie like the Legend hoodie.
What'd you do? Just wine and dine and relax?
Wine and dine. We went and saw all the old historical stuff, which was it's so unbelievable. We saw the first mansion, first home basically ever to have plumbing in it. It was in like the 1800s, and it was so wild because they have the roof is pitched all inward.
Yeah.
So all the rainwater runs in, goes down a pipe, and it fills all these holding tanks. They're just concrete block holding tanks. They hold thousands and thousands of gallons of water.
Wow.
Yeah, it's wild. And I just looked at her and I said, can you imagine the mold problems that this place had? You know what I mean? Because we went and saw the first indoor
romance.
Outstanding. But yeah, so it was interesting. I mean,
So wait a second. So if you're the first house that had indoor plumbing, what happened?
They're mansions, dude.
What happens if it goes wrong? Because you can't call a plumber because there's no others. I mean, it's like you're the only one.
So all the water's held in these holding tanks. Some are on the second floor, some are on the first floor, some are in the basement. Okay. And so it's all gravity fed systems. There's nothing to pump water. It's all gravity. So think about this. Okay. And it was the first one to have indoor bathrooms too.
Okay.
All right. So think about this. All that water there's no way to keep a lot of it separated. So when you use the water, there's just a pipe that comes out the side of the house that dumps it in the street.
It's raw sewage going out.
100% raw sewage going in the street.
Wow.
And so I was just laughing. I says, in today's society, we make such a big deal about so many things. And back then, I mean, they covered these cisterns or cisterns, whatever the hell you call them, that hold all this water. They covered them with wood planks. And so can you imagine the mold and the moisture? Oh, yeah. Dude, I mean, come on. It's like you got to
think they're like, oh, we're going over to the Smith's house. They're classy. They smell kind of weird.
Oh yeah, 100%.
Uh,
But there was so much history there. You never got bored because during the day we walked everywhere. We walked
mhm.
miles and miles every day. So during the day we went and saw everything, and then once evening rolled around, then we hit River Street, hit all the restaurants and the bars and stuff. So it was a pretty good time.
Nice. I was talking to you before the show, and hell, we'll get into this right off the hopper. And the Thursday nighter that I usually fish, I'm going to fish it by myself tonight at Shawnee Twin. And the last time we fished it, we went there. We thought they'd be offshore already, but it was up in the grass. And I jumped in Cranford's boat, and I did not bring any swim jigs with me. So once we deemed that the pile game was a tad off on the evening, we slid up shallow and just started cracking them he caught a couple on a frog, I caught some on a buzz bait, and it was 4 foot high in the water willow, and
Oh my gosh.
I did not bring a single swim jig with me.
How pissed were you?
I was pretty pissed. So I was mentioning that to you. And then when we were getting ready for the show, I logged on to LureNet and saw that they just dropped a bunch of new swim jigs. Yeah, I was like, can we get those there in 8 hours for my tournament tonight?
Yeah, so there's a new series out on the Mobster swim jig. It's called.
They actually look really badass.
Listen,
I'll bring them up. Hold on a second.
I'm so excited about this because it's called Ghost Bone, and so what?
There they are.
Yeah, so what these skirts are? It's a pearlized, it's like pearlized bone with that happens to be gray ghost, and so that's pearl gray, pearl, that's chartreuse bone. And
I don't even want to show the next one.
Yeah, wait, don't show the next one yet. So chartreuse bone works good in murky and heavily stained water, but this is pearled chartreuse. It's not like a vibrant hot chartreuse. It's pearled and muted. And the whole entire Ghost Bone series, it's all pearled and muted. It's very, very similar to the FX colors that I put in the Rogues. And so this series here excites the hell out of me because there is application. So go to the next one.
You said this color was subtle chart?
Yeah, subtle chartreuse. It's a subtle chart.
I think we've all fought that battle privately at some point in our lives.
And this will be the last show we do.
We're both. That's my fault. That's my fault. We're both getting calls after this. Lincoln's on. He said nothing worse than a subtle shark. Yeah, we're getting calls. All right, on to the next one. That was 100% me. If anyone from LureNet or Pradco's listening, call me, not Frank, on that. That was my immature joke.
That's fine.
Okay. This one is the one that is wild.
That's twisted. So that pink is a pink pearl. And it's very subtle pink pearl, but it pops in the water, especially against the bone. That's one of my favorites. The other one that's my favorite is gray ghost bone, and then pearl ghost bone, because I want shad imitators a lot.
Yeah.
And I'm telling you right now, man.
Dude, that one though,
that is money.
That one when it's a little muddier, but that one right there,
that's so money. I mean,
that's a double keeper on that.
Oh yeah, it's a double keeper. When you put your trailer on there, there's no glue required. It ain't coming off. And so, speaking about trailers, so realistically, I can narrow this down really quick. So when I'm throwing a swim jig, okay, if I'm fishing at 4 feet or less, I'm using some type of craw trailer, like a a yum craw chunk, a Christie craw, a spine craw, something of that nature, because I'm pumping it and I'm shaking it. And that's how I'm fishing. I'm fishing it fast. It's a reaction bait. I'm moving it and grooving it through all the cover and everything. But when I start to get to that 4 foot and deeper, and when I say deeper, I mean 15 feet even, then I go to a swim bait trailer and I slow roll the crap out of the thing. If I'm fishing deep brush piles, I slow roll it right through the brush piles. If I'm fishing deep grass, I slow roll it right through the grass clumps. It comes right through them, so nice. So yeah, but I've
So you're putting like a pulse minnow on the back.
Yeah, 100%.
Okay.
100%. Now what I do is I cut the head off of the big pulse minnow.
Okay.
I don't throw the little pulse minnow on them. I throw the big one because of the tail action on the big one really helps swim that jig. It really makes that jig move a lot. And so that's how I fish it. It's so twisted. But those colors got me going because quite frankly, I've been after that kind of skirt colors for a while, especially I want to see them in spinner baits too.
Oh, dude, yeah. That would be insane, especially with the little pink kick that they've been on since the classic, since you see.
Yeah.
That's
yeah.
wild. Those are full price right now. They're only like what, $5 or something. And we haven't done this in a couple weeks, so I'm gonna try to make up for
lost time.
no, I'm gonna make up for the immature joke by pumping the 25%, 15% off regularly priced items for BTL listeners, capital BTL 25 checkout at lurenet.com if you wanted to get some of the monster swim jigs.
Yeah, and the thing is, what's crazy is like I fish swim jigs, I want to say a lot, but I don't fish them a lot because I'm very situational when I'm throwing them.
Yeah.
And so I have it kind of really locked down to a science. Like my swim jig box literally is, yay big. And because I fish them so specifically, floating docks, you know what I'm saying?
Yeah, the swim jig for me. So in my adventures across the country and talking to guys, there are certain guys who will find scenarios to throw, find non-traditional scenarios to throw swim jigs in. It's interesting. The swim jig guys, they'll throw them around the docks. They'll throw them in the shad spawn. They'll throw them on deep grass. They'll skip them under overhangs. They'll reel them down laydowns. They will fish a swim jig
everywhere
in 8 out of 10 applications. But then there's other guys, and I'm one of those guys, where it's got to be the flooded water willow, or it's got to be something that just screams swim jig. Right. But I also it's interesting how many guys who are extremely successful, a swim jig is a major part of their arsenal.
Yeah, and the funny thing is, I throw them probably more in the cold water months than in the warm water months. I'm fishing them differently in the winter. I'm slow rolling them, big swim bait on the back of them, big pulse on the back. Slow rolling them, fishing them super deep. That's generally how I fish them in the winter time. In the warm months, pre-spawn through the spawn, early post-spawn, you almost have to have one on. I mean, you almost have to, especially with the spring we've had with all this rainfall. You'd almost be dumb not to have one on.
5/16 versus half ounce. If you're up in the shallow stuff and all that, you want the 5/16. If you're getting a little bit of deeper, if you're fishing structure with it, if you're skipping it more and stuff, you want that little heavier half ounce, I'm assuming.
Yeah, I mean, I have way more 5/16 than halves, but the halves are important on the deep structure slow roll thing, especially if you're running it through deep brush piles, because you want that jig to get and crawl on them branches. But for the most part, I'm 5/16 all the way. I just have a really good feel for that, and it skips a flipping mile. Yeah. Like the first time I ever skipped one, I was like, "Oh my God, I didn't know I was that good at it." You know what I mean? Because I'm terrible. I'm terrible at skipping lures. I can skip a jig like no problem, but anything else, I'm terrible at it. You know, you got to admit your shortcomings.
So there you go. That's just out now on LureNet. The pearl ghost bone, the gray ghost bone, the chartreuse ghost bone, and the pink ghost bone.
Yeah, and I will tell you that pink one is super subtle. I would I would throw that for speckled trout in Florida. I'm not kidding. I'd put a swim bait on the back of that and I'd go sandblast them trout.
Yeah.
That is just golly, that is
yeah, that looks pretty. Do you how's this for a transition? Do you ever throw swim jigs on hard spots, Frank?
Today, speaking of that, yeah, well, yeah, I mean, yeah, because a lot of times the harder bottom areas are void of grass, and so you'll have grass around them. If it's a grass lake, you'll have grass around them. Oneida is famous for this. Okay, yep. You'll have grass around them, and you could literally you could pitch a Ned rig into the hard spot, but you could throw the swim jig into the grass on the outer edges of it where the bass are hiding, and then they ambush whatever comes in through that hard spot. If minnows swim through it, that open area, or crayfish swim through that open area, the bass come out and attack them. And so this gives you the ability for a more natural presentation, and you could fish the grass that's also around the hard spot. So yeah, so today clearly we're going to talk about harder bottom areas today. We're gonna go right into it. So
yeah, I had Tucker Smith on, who just had 127 pounds on Lake Fork, almost set the record. This is where we're coming up. I'll just set this stage and then I'll turn it over to you real quick. And it's not going to air until Monday. I'll be out of town Monday. We can get into that at the end of the show if you want to, but I'll be out of town next week. But anyway, he was talking about how his whole game plan at Fork revolved around side imaging and using his mapping to find hard spots because everything is so pounded on Fork. He was looking for subtle, off the beaten path hard spots that the bass would sit on.
Correct.
And after that show, I called you up and I said, Frank, we're doing a hard spot show, because that is something, I think I told you this on the phone. I said, there's certain things in this game that when you get advanced into it, right? Yeah. And then you don't develop that aspect or fully understand that aspect, it's embarrassing to go back and say, okay, I don't get this. whether it's changing a prop, regardless of what it is. I've never been one to be afraid of admitting my weaknesses, and finding hard spots is one of my weaknesses, Frank.
Well, we're going to solve that problem. So first of all, we're going to have to define what this is, okay? Because I have, this is going to be so dumb, but I'm saying it anyway. I have a soft spot for hard spots. So they're harder bottom areas, and they can be found literally in any depth range. There's no right or wrong. Okay. It's just it's a harder bottom area. It could be a mud bottom that goes from mud to clay. All right. It could be, with obviously clay being the harder area. It could be a shell bed. It could be a gravel spot, just where the surrounding areas are soft bottom mud or even clay, and then there's a gravel spot there. Okay. It could be just flat rock where the current washed away the silt and there's just a flat rock area. Smooth rock, and it could actually be rock. I mean, it could actually be just a rocky area, shell beds, etc. I said all that. So these areas what makes these areas good are the ones that are typically surrounded by a softer bottom substrate. Could be mud, could be clay, could be sand, just a softer bottom substrate. If it's surrounded by that, it's going to be a good fish holding location. All right. So you have to understand also with these hard areas, okay, they're not always indicated by an incline in the bottom. All right. Sometimes there's barely a negligible incline. It's just a harder area. And so you won't have that large, hump. Like some of them will be where the larger humps are, because as the bump gets closer to the surface, the current washes the top of the silt off of it, and you'll have a hard spot right on the up current side of the high spot, okay, which we'll show you later on a map. Side imaging is the easiest way on earth to find these things. They show up. Here's what happens. Let's say you got your amber palette going, and so everything is that brown amber color, and you're cruising along and you're side imaging along, and there's no there. You're not getting a lot of this up and down stuff with the contours. All of a sudden, you get a bright hot patch of white. That's the hard spot. That literally is it. And you can see, like I found a gravelly patch in 15 feet of water on this lake by the house. There's nothing. There's no bump. There's no nothing. I was side imaging, and all of a sudden I saw the hot spot. So I dropped a waypoint on it. And then I started zigzagging across it and doing all my stuff because I wanted to see if it was legit. And it turns out it's gravel. It's a 10-yard stretch of gravel. And how I know exactly what it was I chucked my Carolina rig out there, because I can feel everything with that tungsten sinker. And it was like I was rolling it over marbles. It was the coolest thing ever. And it was so easy to find. Now we're going to go to 2D sonar, because 2D sonar is a bitch, because you have to make tight zigzags over your structure, real tight, up and down like a checkerboard, because your cone angle goes down. You only cover so much water, and it's harder to see. So what's going to happen is, on your 2D sonar, I wonder if I could draw this.
I'm guessing you could.
I'm guessing I could. So on your 2D sonar, the first thing you're going to notice, we're just going to go with the bottom color line on this thing. So I'm going to just do this real quick. So what I'm doing is I'm drawing a bottom color line, and I'm trying to make it as legible as possible in the shortest possible amount of time, which probably won't happen, but we're going to do it anyway. Oh yeah, this is going to work. It's going to work out pretty good. So anyway, so what you're going to do is you're going to be idling over on your 2D sonar, and you're going to notice two things. You're going to notice that your bottom line in some areas is going to get thick and fuzzy, and in other areas it's going to get thin and defined. And so what's happening is, where it gets thin and defined, and here I'm going to show you, and this is echo. All right, so here's what happens, and I don't know how good this is going to show up because I really rushed it. Okay, so you got a fuzzy line here.
Yep.
See how it's fuzzy?
Yep.
That's indicating soft bottom. Well, as you come to the hard spot, the fuzz goes away and you get a definitive line on top of it. But the other thing that happens is you get the triple echo underneath it with the 2D sonar.
Yep.
So where you're going to get the soft bottom, you're going to have a fuzzy bottom line, you're going to have one echo, and then all of a sudden, when you get into this where it tightens up, you're going to have, 3 echoes in there, and then all of a sudden it's going to merge into one. So you know that this is the hard area. This area right here is the hard area, because you've got that multiple echoes, and you don't have the big fuzzy line.
Yep.
On it, and that's how to find it with.
And that's because the fuzzy line is because you're reading into the silt, muck, sand, whatever, because it's soft, so it's picking it up. And then on the hard, it's reverbing off of it, so that's why it's thinner, because it's not reading down into this bottom or whatever.
100%. And so that's
so you're finding it on your side imaging, and then you're confirming it on your 2D to pinpoint it.
You could find it on your 2D if you don't have side imaging. If you have side imaging, you don't have to worry about your 2D, because you are going to see it on side imaging.
Now, what causes those? I know you've done glacial deposit shows.
Yeah.
That's kind of what started this whole thing with day 4, when you blew everyone's mind about finding those on the Great Lakes. Is this the same kind of situation where you just have,
it's the
I
same,
don't know, tectonic plate movement stuff on the bottom of the river, where there's just hard bottom that rises up in some areas randomly?
Yeah, so here's what happens. Okay, for the most part, you have to differentiate between reservoir and natural lake.
Okay.
All right, natural lake, these hard spot areas occur because of if the glacier pushed its, the soft bottom away, opened up hard spots. Okay. Also, there's random rock deposits on natural lakes, where some areas are more sandy and mud, and then all of a sudden there's an area with rock in it. Okay, that's just the way the lake was formed. But in reservoirs, current is what brings these hard spots to life. Even down in Florida, tide influences bring these things to life, because anytime you have current, it's going to wash away areas of silt. In fact, let's go to the topo map. So what we have here, we're going to focus in right where the hand is on Matt's screen. We're going up to there. So what you have is you have 2 channels. You have a secondary channel and a main river channel. So go to the, I think it's 10 feet. I can't really see my screen good. Go to right over there. So for easy explanation, the dam is where the Garmin logo is. So we know the current is running that way. All right. So we know the current's running towards the dam. So what we're looking for here is I'm looking for flats and high areas on secondary channels, or it could be main river channels. This happens to be a secondary channel. All right. And so the current's going to wash away through there. So if you look at the little point that sticks out right up against the secondary channel on the main body, Matt, go right down right there. So zoom in on that area. So that area right there, the front facing area on that high spot, is going to have its silt washed away from the current. And so is the one right next to it, just to the left right there. It's going to have, there's going to be washout spots. All right. And that's going to open up the hard bottom spots for it. Now that's very obvious because it's on very obvious structural element. But if you go down from there and stop right there, right where your hand is, that is a giant flat. Okay. That whole thing is a giant flat. So if you go to that flat and you want a high percentage area, right? Stop, go in a little, keep going around follow the contour around to the hook at the end, right? Keep going, right there, back up, right there. Okay, so if you want to figure out a high percentage spot, how to find that, right? So if I see the contours like that, that's going to do 2 things. It's redirecting current. And because on top of that, there's that, I don't know how deep it says, 6 feet or whatever, the
on very top, it's like 9.
Okay, so the very top of that's 9. So what happens there is the closer it gets to the surface of the lake, the more current runs over it because it's compressing the water column. So it's coming up that flat, up that little high bump and going back down. And because you have the hook in there, the hook is also creating a current seam. And so there's more likelihood that you're going to find one of the harder area on that flat. Those are the ones most guys roll by because they're not obvious. Those are the ones you look for because they're feeding zones for one. For two, they're the hard spot around the soft bottom. And they have a little bit more current on them because the water's pushing up the flat. So that's kind of, if you're doing map work, that's kind of how you find them on the map.
And this is gigantic area here. Like if we
Oh,
pull
yeah.
up, do you want to pull up what it looks like aerial?
Yeah, go ahead. I'm on it right now. Okay, so let me get my trusty pen out. Okay, so this is about, let me do this.
This is the exact same area, except we pulled it up on the deep dive app now where Frank can,
right. So
Frank can
so
doodle.
all that stuff is about right here that we looked at. That's a lot. That's a ton of area to cover. But here's a cool thing. So I'm going to clean that off. Oops, I'm going to clean that off because I want to draw something here. So if I'm just going to do this as best I can, I'm going to fake it. I'm just, this is the best I can without.
Yep. And then I'm going to, as he does that, I'm going to go back to this to show what we're looking at right here. I'm going to zoom out a little bit. That's what we're looking at.
All right. Okay, perfect. So now let me zoom mine up. Okay, so now, so let's just say, and I'm going to do red. Let's just say that the hard bottom areas that we're looking at are right here, here, and right here. Okay, let's say that. So relatively easy to fish. We know that the current is going this way on our map. We know that's where the current's going, right?
Yep.
So pretty easy to fish. I'm going to have my nose facing downstream. I'm going to start with my boat and going downstream because I want to fish with the current in my face for boat control, right? So here's the cool thing. If I have that spot, dollars to a donut, I found other areas in this lake that have the same locale. All right. I want to make sure that when I get there, it's fishable. So if I go to the deep dive app and I put in the wind application, all right, I can see how the wind is going on this map here. I'm going to do this one. I like that better. So I'm seeing how that the wind is actually blowing to the east. All right, it's out of the west. It's blowing to the east, which is good because this is going to give me the ability to fish this properly because I don't have to go against the current and I don't have to really fight the wind. All right, so this spot's going to give it to me with this wind direction. Conversely, if I was in another section of the lake and found this stuff on the opposite side, it would make it more difficult for me to fish effectively. You can still fish it. I mean, you can, but to be the most effective, you could watch how the wind is blowing. Now, two things occur. Okay, this wind here on today is literally blowing out of the west, so it's not going to do much to hinder what we want to accomplish in this area. But if the wind was blowing hard out of the north, all right, it's going to stop the current.
I think you can do, if you hit the X on the drawing and hit the wind effects again, I think you can show what the wind's going to be like for the next 7 days. I think you might have to hit the X on the drawing first.
Oh, you mean delete my
drawing? There you go. Now go to the bottom and then scroll the wind and you can see, if you go to the bottom there and use that scroll bar on the bottom, there you go.
Okay, so we're gonna look and see what. Okay, look at that. So now we have more intense wind.
Yep.
And the wind is actually kind of northwest now.
Yep.
On this spot. All right. So what that's going to tell me is that it's literally the wind is going to blow me down the current, which is going to make me fish it too fast. So I'm going to have to take a downstream approach to it, which is not necessarily optimal. I'm going to have to take a downstream approach, but more than anything, this is going to stall the current in this area. And so it's going to reposition these fish where you might have been catching them on top. Now they might go and relate to the break on it.
So let's hypothetically say.
So for you, let's say
catching them on this part right here.
So that's the break. So
Yep.
on top, the high spot right there. So that theoretically is the sweet spot. And just like on the 10-foot one next to it, those are the sweet spots. But now we have a current stall. So those fish could literally go anywhere they want to go now.
Okay.
The feeding platform with the current rushing over it now doesn't become as attractive. They could literally suspend in the channel. They could relate to the drop. They could do anything they want. So the positioning of the fish will be different. And so when you go there in the event, and you have the wind conditions like we're showing right now on the screen, you may have to fish this area differently to catch them. Doesn't mean the fish left it. It just means they're relating to it differently, and now you may have to fish it in a different capacity.
Which relates to what Lincoln said. He said, would the whole top of the flat be worth side scanning or checking?
Absolutely, because that's where you find the secret stuff, the stuff that the map's not going to show you, the unobvious stuff. Any high spot that you have, and the reason that I like the flats better is because there's you'll find more random hard spots on bigger flats, especially if they have defined ditches that cut through them. And
so would that be a big flat, Frank? Right?
Yeah,
here.
100%.
It's drops down to 12 to 18. You've got a pond on one side. The main channel's over here, but this is a gigantic flat right here.
Correct.
This is the obvious stuff that we were looking at, but you're gonna look at all this using your side imaging to. There could be a secret hard spot on here. And how big are we looking for? Is this the size of your boat, the size of a truck, 100 yards? How big of a hard spot?
They could vary. They vary in size. They could be as small as the size of your boat. They could be 10 times the size of your boat.
Okay.
They could be the size of, 2 garbage cans.
Frank, this could take hours or days in some cases.
Not with side imaging.
Okay.
No. 2D sonar would take you weeks.
Yeah.
I mean, that's how we used to have to find them, with 2D sonar. So a lot of guys never went to that extreme. They just never went to that extreme. That's what makes them so good. They're difficult. You know what I mean? Now, knowing where to look, which we already discussed on the maps, knowing where to look, if you wanted to, I think I might. Should I just get rid? No, I'm going to leave that. That looks cool. Knowing where to look for this stuff cuts your search down monumentally. Fishing these hard spots is not difficult either. If it's a 4 to 8 foot hard spot, honestly, I'm going to go old school. I'm throwing a Bandit 200 and a Bomber 6A and a Norman middle end if I'm cranking it. If I'm Carolina rigging, I'm using craw baits, Carolina rigging that stuff.
Okay.
I just like them better for that particular thing. And the reason that I always chuck a Carolina rig on these spots is because I can feel, when I make a long cast, I can feel the weight in the soft stuff. You don't feel it's mushy, it's soft. And then all of a sudden you feel the hard bottom with that weight. Then I know I am in this zone, because then I'm going to get bit. And so that's why I really love dissecting these things with the Carolina rig. Now, micro football jigs and standard football jigs work just as well. But my go-to first is the C rig and the crankbait. Those are my go-tos.
All right. We're going to go off course here. This is what I struggle with, and I just saw this on the map. Actually struggled with this when I fished Kentucky Lake in the Bassmaster Open in April. And we're on Barkley here. This is random. I've never even been on Barkley. I'm going to pull this map back up, and I could be totally off on this. So this area over here is what we were looking at. This is the main channel. It's 40, 50 foot deep up here.
Right.
And you have some flats, some islands. You've got a pond here where you've got the deeper. We're looking at this. This stuff shows up. But this is the stuff that I get hung up on. I'm on the main channel, right? It's 13 foot here. It comes up to 10 or 12 foot here, right? So you're in the main channel and you want to do something obvious. So if I'm driving down the damn lake and I'm looking for it, I'm driving down the channel and I see this and I see like this spot that's really adjacent to the bank right here. I'm in 50 foot, you know, that's going to be boom. You're going to hop up on top. And now I've got a little 6-7 foot shelf that's right up. Is that stuff even worth looking at? That close to the main channel and stuff like over here? You see what I'm looking at here, Frank?
Oh yeah, dude, that's money. That's money. And here there's a secondary channel that runs up against the bank there, forms a little bit of a saddle. So you're gonna that's
right here, right?
Yes. So that whole high spot is a current wash.
Okay.
That's probably mostly hard bottom right there.
But that's probably going to get hit by a lot of guys too, because if you're running
sometimes the small stuff gets overlooked a lot.
So you're going to side image, boom, boom. You're going to side image across the top of this thing. You're going to look for, hold that picture up again. On your side imaging, you're going to look for, or down imaging. Just throw that down imaging picture up that shows, sorry. Boom. There you go. You're going to look for something that looks like that. And then on, let's see if we can do this, on this spot or over where we were, now you have identified the key spot that you're going to take your Carolina rig, your plug, that type of thing. Okay. You're going to want to approach it from the down current side.
Zoom out just a smidge.
It's literally, this is where we were. It's literally just across. I don't know why. That just seemed to stick out to me like a sore thumb when I was looking at it.
I got it.
He's out here, Frank. Frank's out here giving away my walleye holes.
Yeah. Yeah, exactly.
I always wonder when we pick a random spot if someone's like, son of a gun.
Yeah, exactly. 100%. So if I'm correct, we're looking at right about here. If I'm correct, we're looking at somewhere right
that's
around
exactly
there.
where. That's exactly where we're looking at.
So I will tell you this, okay? I have a few places that I fish that have secondary. They have main river channel, secondary river channel, tertiary river channel, and then
what does that mean? Tertiary.
Third. Okay. There's 3 river channels, and then the 4th one is basically a drain. All right. I have seen the bass hop from the drain to the 3rd, to the 2nd, to the main. And they're traveling a fairly good distance. You know, we're talking a couple hundred yards, maybe 400 or 500 yards to do this. And then I've seen where they go back literally 4 hours later, they're back to a different part of the channel. When you approach these things on the main river channel, what makes them predictable is the bass go from that high spot to the main river break. They don't have all the 2nd and 3rd river channels to choose from. They have the one. I never ignore good stuff off the main river break either. I look at all of it. So
if I see this and I'm looking at this, then I'm going to go a quarter mile down and I'm going to go, holy cow, there's a deep bank here. This is going to touch the main river channel here. There's a hole back behind here, and look at that high spot right there. 100%. Now you're freaking cooking with gas. Now you're working down. Now you're idling. Now you're basing on feedback on how much you're doing, because I'm looking down here, and this is just all there. But that right there to me is a very high percentage spot.
Yeah, so that spot right there is cool as crap because it's almost like a wing dam. It'll have a wing dam effect, okay? And so if you have that current side of that high spot is going to be solid. I can almost guarantee you that just by looking at that. It's going to be solid. it's probably you're probably gonna catch fish off of that. Now, you may, depending on the size of it, you may catch 1 or 2, or you may catch 20. You know what I mean?
Now
Like
here's the next question. So this is obvious. You're gonna stop
yeah,
here,
it's
right,
obvious.
Frank?
Right.
So what about this next couple miles that's like just 10-foot flat? Are you gonna idle all this
Yeah,
10 to 12 foot
I'm gonna side scan
just
the
to
whole
see if
thing.
there's a random?
Well, there will be.
So when you talk about the guys that said, man, I side image for miles,
Yeah.
especially on the TVA, they're side imaging for miles, hoping that on this nondescript stuff that 99% of the guys are running by, they're going to have something that sticks out like a sore thumb, a little high spot that's like out in the middle of nowhere, that's not on any contour, that's not an obvious
100%.
wing dam type saddle. And then bam, that's the stuff that you get guys who win 3, 4, 5 weeks in a row because they roll up and they've got a place where those fish live.
Yeah, that's where dreams come from, man. It's those spots. Like I spent my career looking for nondescript areas. Now, I'll be honest with you, there are times when you're going to have to fish the obvious, but I always look for unobvious stuff because it doesn't get the fishing pressure. You have it to yourself more likely than not. You won't have company on it. And there's so much of it, especially in dammed river systems like the TVA, in reservoirs. You have tons of this stuff. I don't necessarily look for fish because if they're plastered to the bottom, unless they're crawling and cockroaching, you won't see them on live scope. If they're suspended, you could see them on side imaging easy. Same with 2D sonar. But if I'm side imaging stuff like that, I'm not running it over with my 2D sonar because I already know where it is. It's too shallow. I'm not going to idle on it. I'm going to side image it, drop a couple waypoints on it, turn around, fish it real quick. If I'm practicing for an event, if I get a bite, I'm gone. I'll keep on keeping on. I just keep on motoring. You don't have to sit there and catch all the fish in practice because spots like that oftentimes don't hold tons of fish because it's so isolated. So you don't want to roust them up and get the school all spooky because fishing pressure will spread that school out or make them leave. Yeah, the land of milk and honey. Yeah,
I will say when the one time in the open that I have gotten healthy off of a hard spot, and I finished 42nd out of 240 was on Eufaula, Alabama. I had forward facing sonar. I was trying to use it. And what kept confusing the hell out of me was I was catching 3 to 4 pound largemouth and I could not see them. I could not see them at all. Like I was throwing a shaky head, a drop shot, a wobble head. Yeah. And I'm like, where are these fish coming from? I'm getting bit 50 feet in front of the boat. I'm looking at it. It's 5 feet deep. I'm feeling that it was a shell deal. And I never saw a single fish I caught. And I probably caught 20 keepers in 2 or 3 hours off of one little spot. It blew my mind.
You can't see them if they're. Oh yeah. So here's the other thing with live scope. Okay. If it's just a hard bottom with forward facing sonar, you're not going to distinguish it.
Yep.
Unless there's a rise to it or unless it's got bigger boulder substrate on it.
Yep.
If it's got bigger boulder substrate, you're going to see it easily. But if it's just a hard spot, because in forward facing sonar, your bottom's a little blown out. It has to be so you could see the fish and your lure and everything else. It's not as fine lined as side imaging. It's a little bit blown out, so you're not going to quite see that. It's not going to be as easy to figure out. Let's put it that way. I don't necessarily have to see a fish to fish a spot. I was, when I first started monkeying with forward facing sonar, that's what I was doing. And I wasn't catching any fish that day. And I went back to just keep that up, Matt, because I want to answer that question. I went back to a spot on, and I didn't see any fish. And I threw out there and I was fishing deep grass, and I rolled my crankbait through the deep grass, and one came out and ate it. And I'm like, how the hell? There's no fish there. There's no bait. There's no fish. There's no nothing. He comes out and he eats it. And I wound up catching like 15 or 16 there and wound up leaving with 23, 24 pounds. And I fished the spot in the morning and didn't see any fish and left it. So I'm casting on it. If I think there should be a bass there, I'm casting on it. More likely than not, he's going to come up and look at your lure, or at least move enough for you to see him. But okay, so that question. Okay, so grass lakes and natural lakes.
How do you find hard spots on grass lakes or natural lakes with glass?
Most of the time, the grass won't grow on them. Okay, so you'll see holes in the grass. Now it's easy to spot shallow, but deep, what you have to do is that's when I use forward-facing sonar to my advantage, because I can scope through there and I can see openings. And generally speaking, if you've got a nice, beautiful grass edge and there's an opening and broken grass, that's where the hard spot is.
It sticks out like a sore thumb to me.
Does.
That's the easiest thing. Like finding hard spots on like Oneida, the grass lakes, when you have emergent vegetation, it literally looks like the wallet. Like it's just boom, there's just a hole. Like it's just, you're just like, there it is.
Right. So I'll tell you a funny story. So when I won Buffalo, forward-facing sonar wasn't out yet. Side imaging was probably just peeking through.
So I say that was like paper maps, wasn't it, Frank?
Yeah, it was 2D sonar, paper maps, and a compass. Anyway, so I win the tournament. I get a call, and I was sponsored by Pradco at the time. I get a call from Chris at Pradco, and he's like, "Hey, we're doing a photo shoot. We need you to come to," and it was north of Oneida, 3.5, 4 hours. Off of Lake Ontario, some backwater area. And I said, okay, I'll be there. But I said, I'm not leaving now tonight to come because I just won the tournament and I'm going out. And so I went out and partied with my buddies. And so in the morning I go there, and I didn't know exactly how far it was. And I was like, oh, they're going to kill me because it's already 3 o'clock. And they've been calling me for 2 hours. Where the hell you at? So I get there and I'm like, what's up, dude? What's going on? I said, how many fish did the guys catch? Because there was like 9 or 10 guys fishing. We were doing photo shoots. There was like 9 or 10 guys fishing. I go, how many fish do they got nothing for pictures. I go, what? He goes, they got nothing for pictures. I said, okay. So we're in this bay off of Lake Ontario, and we're in this big bay. And I said, okay, well, I'll find something real quick. And so it's all grass.
You had to be in Chameau.
No, it wasn't. It was for the life of me, I can't figure it out.
That's fine. Sorry. I just thought it was Chameau because what you're describing exists in Chameau Bay too.
Right. No, this was largemouth haven country. Mm-hmm. We were not really in the smallmouth grid. So anyway, so I launched the boat. It's all grass. I have 2D sonar, and it's just grass. So I start idling out, and I could start to see my bottom depth going down a little bit, and there's still grass all over my screen. I go, this is going to be perfect. He goes, what the hell are you doing? And I start making these big zigzags back and forth. I go, I'm gonna find an opening, and it's going to be a hard spot, and we're going to plaster them. And sure enough, I'm 300 yards offshore. And all of a sudden I'm idling through and the grass is gone and it's as hard as could be. And then I go about 15 yards, 20 yards, poof, the grass comes back. I lob a buoy over the back of my head. I spin the boat around. I go, let's fill the live well. We're going to kill them. And we caught largemouth after largemouth after largemouth on this one hard spot in the middle of this grass. And he goes, these guys have been up here for 2 days and can't get fish for pictures, and we've got a boat full. And I go, yeah, dude. I said, this is the easiest. These natural lakes are the easiest, especially when you're in a completely grass-filled area to find the hard spots where the bass go. And so yeah, so that's probably the best example I can give you, how powerful those little areas can be. I mean, we just went back and forth and we plastered them for like 2 hours. We just
Why do they sit on that? It's just easier to find the bait. Like, what are they? Why are they attracted to the hard spots?
Well, it's 100% ambush. So they have the crayfish, the bait fish, they all go to these places, especially in grass lakes. The grass will surround them. It's almost like a fenced-in arena, and the bass sit there in the grass looking at the hard spot. And when something comes through the hard spot, they swim out and get it. It's crazy. I mean, all we did was I threw Texas rig 4-inch ribworm on them.
Mm-hmm.
Just fire it out there. It hits the bottom. Pow. You know what I mean? That's how we caught them all. And it was only 9 feet deep on top of the rock. It was only 9 feet deep. And the boat was probably in 11. You know what I mean? It was nothing. I mean, it was nothing. It was just hard. And so it works out. You know what I mean? That's the importance of these things. Finding them today with today's technology is nowhere near as difficult as it used to be.
I think that's a pretty good overview, Frank. Now, one of the things that I noticed, there's some shows that you do where you say, hey, we're going to talk about this, and it's a style or a type of fishing, but then you really hammer the baits and you talk about the subtleties and the differences in the baits. One thing I've noticed on here is you've mentioned the baits. You mentioned a sea rig, you mentioned a plug, you mentioned a jig, but you have spent the majority of 30 minutes focusing on making sure you're in the right areas, you're finding the high percentage spots, and it's not so much about the exact composition of what you're throwing, it's where you're throwing it. And is that a fair assessment?
That's 100% accurate, because on any given day, depending on weather conditions, current, watercolor, you don't know what lure is going to make it work for you. And so there's a whole wide array of baits you could throw on these. Now, the deeper the hard spot is, now you're adding more to the mix. You know, more lure presentations to the mix, from drop shots, micro jigs, the whole 9 yards. I mean, you're adding more to it. So to go into a bait on this one is really not fair, because it's not limited to, you know what I mean?
But as much as I hate to say it, the common theme here is I don't think you can go wrong with a Carolina rig on hard spots. It doesn't matter. You could talk time of the year, smallmouth, largemouth, spotted bass, natural lakes, man-made reservoirs, current-driven fisheries, muddy, clear.
Can't go wrong with it.
You got to have a Carolina rig on, and then based on the depth, you can alter it, whether you're throwing a split shot mojo kind of a 1/4 ounce deal if it's super shallow up on top, or whether you're throwing a 3/4 ounce barrel swivel on deeper. But you're going to be presenting a bait. The bait's not going to be mugged down in the bottom, and you're going to have the best feel out of anything because you've got direct contact on the bottom that's translating back to where you can tell what you're on.
Yeah. I mean, shaky heads, jigs, that kind of stuff. Anything, like I said, there's a million things, but I am not approaching these without a rig. Okay. I always have a rig on. And here's the screwed up thing is I always use a craw trailer on it for those hard spots. I don't understand what it's got to be a confidence thing with me. Although on Wiley, I did catch them a lot on a 10-inch worm, and Old Hickory. I caught a lot of them on a 10-inch worm. So I will switch it up. Okay, I will switch it up. But for the most part, my go-to, I know I'm going to get a bite. If I lob a spine craw on the back of my Carolina rig or a Christie craw, I'm going to get a bite. Speed craw, same thing. I'm going to get a bite. So all I want to do is see if the fish are using it.
Mm-hmm. I'm just hitting you with questions. Sorry.
That's okay.
Now, do all decent sized fisheries have hard spots regardless of what they are? Like, are there some fisheries like that you get on where you're like, hey, there's just no hard spots on this fishery?
No, I've never been on a lake where I haven't found them.
Okay.
I found tons of them on Okeechobee, but you know what they were?
Shell?
No, they were old coral.
Really?
Yeah, old coral reefs, dude.
Wow.
Yeah, I plastered them. I lost 3 between 7 and 9 pounds on a shaky
Because
head
it's
the first
sharp?
day. No, because I got one tangled in my trolling motor and I couldn't get them out. And then I had 2 jump off and I was like, what is going on? And then I went to the Carolina rig and I lost another one and I caught the 4-pounders. I got the 4-pounders in the boat, but the giants were coming off and I started screwing with my hooks and I kept going bigger and bigger and bigger. And the bigger hooks I put on, the more fish I lost. And then I finally went to a 2-aught and I never lost another one, but I never caught one over 7 again.
Lincoln with a lot of good questions. What are you looking for when it's hard everywhere? Like a table rock or bull shoals or something like that.
Well, yes. So at that point in time, all right, now you're going to look for, especially on bull shoals and table rock. So now what you're going to look for is an elevation.
Okay.
I'm going to want an elevation and I'm going to want boulder size.
So that's a rock pile.
Right. So it's a rock pile. So
Okay.
what I've found is on lakes that have tons of hard bottom on them, bass will take a boulder size preference. They may want the basketball size ones. They may want giant individual ones, and they may want gravel. So now now you have a process of elimination to go. Now you're fine tuning a pattern is what you're doing, and depth becomes relevant. Wood becomes relevant here, especially on table rock. I have found that if there's wood present on what I'm fishing, it's 10 times better than if it's just bare rock. So that's what, and bull shoals is the same way. So that's now you gotta, it's like this. It's like you go to a lake, it's a dock lake, there's 2,000 docks on the lake. So you got to go figure out a pattern on the lake.
Fair enough.
So you could go to docks that have only channel banks on them, and that could be the pattern. Every channel bank dock has a bass on it. Every point dock has a bass on it. Or conversely, it's the spawn and they want the flat shit. So now you got to go to the flats and fish the docks on the flats. Okay, so it's no different with the rock when the whole lake's got good hard bottom composition to it.
Lincoln with another. This is a comment that I'm going to turn into a question. He said, throw the perfect presentation where there aren't fish and you aren't going to catch anything. Let me pull this up again. And this is a question. Let's say this sets up perfect. You find it, the wind's right, everything's right. They should be out here. You throw your sea rig out there, mush, don't. You're like, oh my God, I'm in it. How many casts? How long are you spending on it? How long before you get bites when everything feels right? Is this something where you have to really talk them into biting, or is this something where it should be 5 or 6 casts where you think it's the juice and you don't get bit, time to move on?
Here's 2 things. Okay, pull it up again. Here's 2 things. That is not a big area. All right. That particular area right there is not big. So my first approach with that is my boat is going to be in the main river channel and I'm going to be down current from it, casting up to it.
So right where my cursor is.
Yes, I'm going to be casting up to it because I'm going to bring it up and over it. If I don't get bit that way, I'm going to go up current from it. Stay on the main river channel. I'm going up current from it. Now I'm going to cast the other way. I'm going to cast up over the hump again and fish that whole thing. I'm going to change my angles on it 2 times.
Okay.
If I don't get bit with angle changes, then there's probably not holding fish.
Okay.
That spot there is a 10-minute fish, maybe 15.
Okay. That was a question.
Yeah.
Because I've gotten hung up on stuff like that before where you're like, oh, there's got to be fish here. Maybe it's my color. Maybe it's all that. And then all of a sudden you've burned 45 minutes and you don't have anything to show for it.
Yeah. No, structure fishing is a different animal. If the fish are on structure, You know, if the fish are on the structure, usually you can get them to bite. And here, if you don't get them to bite, they're probably suspended, and you'll see them on scope.
Yeah.
Because if they're on the bottom, they're biting.
I like it. Anything else, Frank?
No, man. No, we're good.
Don't forget, Capital BTL 15% off regularly priced items on lurenet.com. Next week,
Yeah.
so I'm going to Mexico next week, Frank, with I got invited to fish. I have no one said not to say anything. I have no idea. So I'm going to fish in the Pan Am Games.
Oh, sweet.
With like 5 teams from the US and against like Mexico and other countries down on Lake El Chulio. Chuchillo, Cuchillo. We're getting like a police escort across the border. It's like a 2-3 hour drive. And we get to practice 2 or 3 days and have 2 days of competition. I have no idea if we win anything. I'm fishing with like Upshaw, but a bunch of other, I think there's 5 teams that are going down there. So I'm super pumped about that. It's been slightly stressful getting everything together for that though. But
yeah, I got to renew my passport, man. My passport expired. I never renewed it.
Yeah. I got the global entry. I got my passport. I got all my documents.
All your insurance.
I think I'm good to go. You mentioned wind a little bit. Yeah. This show, I know we got to do a recorded show.
We're gonna do.
You good for a wind show for next Thursday?
Yeah, wind is your friend.
Wind is your friend. I know we've touched on it. We've done a little bit on it, but always good for a refresher on that. So
it's always good for a laugh.
Always good for a laugh. Oh man. All right. Well, that was a good show. It's been a while since we've had like a really deep dive.
Yeah.
And there's a link for it in that. I know we talked about it a lot before, and we brought it back. One of the most educational and helpful apps. I'm not a big app guy, never have been. Neither of you, but if you guys are looking for something that's a subscription-based deal, it's like I think it's like $100 a year or less to get all the premium stuff. It's got river flows, wind effects, all sorts of cool stuff in it. Definitely worth a shot. Link is in the YouTube description if you have any interest in checking out the Deep Dive app. And then you put it on your phone when you're on the water. You can just pull it up. Boom, you got all sorts of stuff at your
fingertips. And here's something cool. I just put the tides in mine.
Oh yeah, that's what they've been working on new is tide charts.
Which is really cool.
Yep.
So that's cool, man. It was a good show. I'll tell you what, I'm really pumped about those monster skirts. They look so good, man.
Yeah, let's end the show with that.
I'm just pumped about them. I mean, I like when things are cool but efficient. You know what I mean?
Yeah, I just feel like you're always going to at least think you're going to get a bite with that jig tied on.
Oh, yeah. Dude, that is so spot on right there. I like the subtleties of it, and I want those to go in spinnerbaits, like right now.
Yeah, you can do it. All right, this has been another edition of Day 4 with the man, Frank Scalish. Same place, same time. Next week, we will talk to everybody then. See ya.
Bye.